Welcome back. All right. Late start to the review video tonight because of a 7:30 start in California. When there's a 7:30 start in California, we know that game probably goes past 60 minutes. It's at the point where it has to be a meme, right? But at any rate, yeah, some entertaining hockey. I also wanted to mention something, just a personal note before I get started here tonight. I've been dealing with some blurry vision in my right eye. It's nothing major. I don't have any pain. I've looked up, like, there's no redness or swelling or anything. It's nothing major. I think either I scratched it or it's something very cosmetic. So I'm going to go and see an optometrist on Tuesday. But I just wanted to mention that because it's been going on for the last few days. I did mention it in a members video. But if I seem a little bit uncomfortable and if I seem like I'm avoiding the light or a little squinty, maybe a little more than normal, that's what it is. All right. So we'll go ahead, and it's just more of an aggravation or anything. I guess the best way to put it is sort of like after you yawn. You know, your vision's a little cloudy there. It's like that. It's nothing awful. All right. We'll start things off, and maybe I get an eye patch at some point. All right, Chicago and Buffalo, RM80. So Chicago and Buffalo, I don't think this went the way we thought it was going to go, did it? Very unpredictable game. So Soderblom versus Luukkonen, the Hawks press at 3 minutes. We get a power play for the Sabres. That's killed off. Shots are 6-2 Buffalo at 5.5 minutes. The Hawks draw a power play, so that's killed off as well. Tuck then prevents a goal for Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi just stands in the crease. Best place to stand if you're a forward. Power has a shot that's held as the Sabres press. The Hawks get stuck on 2 shots for a while. Crossbar for Tuck. There's more pressure by the Sabres, and they score at 13:57. Doan buries a rebound. Thompson and Tuck with the assists. So at 13:57, it's 1-0 Buffalo. And it's really all Buffalo. And then at 15:19, Zucker puts one in from the left circle on a turnover. The assist to Jack Quinn. Sabres then get a power play, and they score on it. At 17:32, Byram tips in a net feed. Tuck and McLeod with the assists. So for Alex Tuck, that's point number 400 in his career, and he wasn't done. And it's 3-0 for the Buffalo Sabres. But before the period's out, at 18:12, Bertuzzi gets one. He backhands a rebound in close. Rinzel and Bedard with the assists. So it's now 3-1. That's your score after the first in favor of Buffalo. Second period, Sabres press at 2 minutes. Byram got shaken up after an awkward crash into the boards. So hopefully no damage out of that. Shots are 2-1 Buffalo at 4.5 minutes. Things get pushed in a hole by Soderblom. And then at 5:42, McLeod goes blocker side from the slot. Zucker and Timmins with the assists. So that makes it 4-1. I think this is when Mike Foligno was in the broadcast booth for Buffalo as well, and they're talking, and 8 seconds later, Buffalo scores again. Samuelson, it's a point shot pass to screen. Roseanne and Bryson with the assists. 5-1 for the Buffalo Sabres. Halfway through this game, Chicago had 8 shots. Buffalo had 5 goals. Insane. Then at 14:35, Vlasic. It's a point shot that goes past the screen on this one as well. Green and Rinzel with the assists, so that makes it, 5-2. Bedard's then denied on a breakaway, and then at 17:31, from the right circle on a rush, it is Doan with his second goal of the game. Dahlin and Tuck with the assists. It's 6-2 for Buffalo. 54.5 seconds left. The Hawks get a power play. So with the score 6-2, that power play rolls over into the third. Chicago looking to get back in the game. And sure enough, it's Bertuzzi at 24 seconds, tipping in a point shot. Bedard and Nazar with the assists. And suddenly it's 6-3. But at 1:56, Tage Thompson goes 5-hole on a net drive. Alex Tuck with the assist there. The Hawks press at 3.5 minutes. And Buffalo would score again at 7:07. It's Quinn roofing one past the screen. Byram and Zucker with the assists. I kind of felt bad for Soderblom in this one because clearly Knight played last night, and it didn't matter how many goals Soderblom allowed tonight. He wasn't coming out of there. Sabres press with 8 minutes left. The Hawks get some pressure with 4.5 minutes left, and then at 16:22, Bryson scores from Malenstein and Greenway, making it 9-3. And I could hear Florida fans in my head chanting, "We want 10. We want 10." Because I didn't hear it with the Buffalo crowd. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just didn't hear it. But Buffalo wins 9-3. So it's an 80s game, and the No Mercy magnets on the board as well. So just crazy score that was far more crazy than anything else that happened tonight. Shots on net, 15-6 Buffalo in the first, 8-7 Buffalo in the second, 11-7 Chicago in the third. Final shots, 30-24 for Buffalo. Power plays, both teams 1 for 2. The hits, 19-13 Buffalo. Soderblom saves 21 out of 30. Rough night for his save percentage. Luukkonen, 20 saves on 23 shots for Luukkonen. All right, moving along. The Minnesota Wild and the Pittsburgh Penguins. So one thing that I was curious to see is whether or not teams that went over and played in the Global Series would have some struggles when they come back. This has happened before. Based on tonight's result, we'll see if that's the case with Pittsburgh. Gustafsson versus Shelovs in this one. The lone shot on net is Pittsburgh's 3.5 minutes in, so kind of a quiet start. And then at 3:57, Boldy buries one. It was a good forecheck by Minnesota that sets this up. Boldy scores from Faber and Eriksson Ek. There was a stick near the eye of Middleton. 4 minutes on that one. Middleton would return to the game. It was scary watching that. Then, during the second half of that 4-minute power play, just before it's done, at 9:39, Eriksson Ek scores from Buium and Boldy. Minnesota's up 2-0. Shots are 6-1 for the Wild with 9 minutes left, and sure enough, at 11:42 on their 7th shot, they get their 3rd goal. It's Johansson from Brodin and Faber. So Faber's got a couple of helpers already, and Minnesota's up 3-0. Penguins press with 7.5 minutes left. They're kept to the outside. We then get a power play for Pittsburgh. That's killed off. No shots on net. The Wild were doing a good job of protecting the net. The Penguins get their 2nd shot with 3.5 minutes left. And the score's already 3-0, so they don't have as many shots as the Wild have goals. There's a press by the Penguins in the final minute, but they came out of that period with 3 shots. Second period with Minnesota ahead 3-0. Kaprizov adds to that lead at 1:09. It's a point shot tipped top corner. Kaprizov with the goal. The assist to Middleton and Zuccarello. Penguins call a timeout, and they pull Shelovs. Murashov goes in the net. I don't know that I would blame Shelovs on those goals, to be honest. I just think Minnesota was on it tonight. Penguins, after that timeout, the shots are 2 apiece at 4 minutes. Crosby has a net feed. That's picked off. The Wild press at 9.5 minutes. They're kept to the outside. Penguins draw a power play. Minnesota kills that off. They allow 1 shot during that power play. The Wild had really taken the fans out of it at this point. Really quiet building. I mean, it's 4-0, so totally understandable. But a good job for the Wild on the road here of taking the crowd completely out of it. The shots are only 5-4 for Pittsburgh with 5 minutes left. The Wild press with 3.5 minutes left. And at 17:46, it's a net feed. It's tipped in. Boldy, he gets another goal. He scores from Kaprizov. So Kaprizov had himself a good game, and so did Boldy. And it's 5-0 for Minnesota after 2. So a lot of Minnesota Wild players had a good game. Third period, there's an early press by the Wild. Graves then has a rush chance. That's blocked. There's a post for Koppanen. Wild had the only shot on net 5 minutes in. So post is not a shot on net. So yeah, didn't count for Pittsburgh there. There's a press by the Penguins at 6.5 minutes. Novak then has a wrister that's held. I thought Gustafsson, when he was tested in the third period, pretty steady, pretty good. Hayes has a wrister that's kicked aside, and that's after Heinen had a wraparound. That was held. The Wild draw a power play. That's killed off, but it takes 2 minutes off the clock. Penguins press with 4.5 minutes left. The shots are 8-2 Pittsburgh with 4 minutes left. Kaprizov then has a turnover chance. That's blocked. I thought this was a really solid 60 minutes for Minnesota. They win this one 5-0. The Daleks on the board because this was an extermination. Shots on net, 9-3 Minnesota in the first, 6-5 Pittsburgh in the second, 10-6 Pittsburgh in the third. Final shots, 20-19 for Minnesota. Power plays, 1 for 3 for the Wild, 0 for 2 for Pittsburgh. The hits, 20-9 in favor of Minnesota. Gustafsson saves all 19 shots, so the Tony the Tiger Magnet's on the board for him. Shelov saved 6 out of 10. That's a rough one. Murashov saved 9 out of 10 in relief. All right, moving along. The Carolina Hurricanes and the Winnipeg Jets. So it's Bussy versus Comrie, because remember in the news video earlier today I mentioned Hellebuck's out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. 16 seconds in. Not a great start for Winnipeg. Stahl. He gets one from the right circle on a rush, what was obviously the first shot. Stahl gets this one from Martinook and Carrier. However, Morrissey would answer at 3:45. Scheifele and DeMello with the assist. This one's buried from the slot on a rush and was only the second shot on net for Winnipeg. So both nets are open for business. Early, it's 1-1. Canes press at 4.5 minutes. There's a power play for Carolina. Jarvis has a one-timer. That's saved. That power play is killed off. Jets draw a power play of their own, and they score on it for their first lead of the game. It's Velarde via 2-on-1 off of a turnover. Perfetti with the assist. That's at 9:28, so the Winnipeg Jets find themselves ahead. There's a nice Ehlers tribute in his return. There's a nice ovation. There's some booing when he touched the puck, but that's standard when a guy comes back after he signs as a free agent somewhere else. DeMello prevents an Ehlers goal. There's a press by the Canes with 7 minutes left. The Jets get some pressure with 5.5 minutes left. Scheifele has a turnover chance that hits the side of the net. It's 2-1 Winnipeg after 1. Pretty entertaining period of play. Second period, Canes press at a minute and a half, and at 3:08, it's Stahl tipping in a point shot, his second goal of the game. He scores from Chatfield and Miller. So Chatfield back in the lineup and back on the score sheet. The Canes then look for the lead. We get a power play for Winnipeg, so the Jets have a chance to get the lead themselves. However, it's a shorthanded marker for Carolina. It's Jarvis bearing a rebound on a rush. Aho and Miller with the assists at 6:31. And then most importantly, Carolina finishes the kill. So they come out of that penalty with the lead at 3-2. Blake scores with a high stick, so no goal. He did not celebrate. He knew it was a high stick. He had no doubt that was coming off the board. Shots are 6-2 Carolina at 8.5 minutes. We get a power play for the Canes. That's killed off. Carrier has a net feed that gets picked off. The Jets press with 5.5 minutes left, but the Jets just aren't getting chances at the net. Carolina blocking them out really, really well. So it's 3-2 Carolina after 2. And Carolina, if they're leading after 2 this year, they were 10-0 coming into tonight. So it's a tough challenge with the Carolina Hurricanes if you're trailing going into the third period. Miller has a rush that's defended. The Jets clear after that. The Canes press. Svechnikov has a chance that's held. We get a power play for Carolina, and they score on it. It's Svechnikov bearing a cross-ice pass. Ehlers and Aho with the assists at 3:19. So there's Ehlers on the board, and he sets up the goal to make it 4-2. But Winnipeg gets that back. At 4:13, Velarde puts one in off a Canes defender via a 2-on-1 rush. He was trying to throw it back to Connor. Went in off a Carolina skate. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's a goal. So then in this case, it's Velarde from Connor at 4:13. So that makes it a 4-3 game. Jets press looking for the tie, but the shots are 5-1 Carolina at 6.5 minutes. Hall has a net drive that's defended. Morrissey to Scheifele. There's a near miss at the Carolina net. Barron fires one wide on a rush. Things get pushy and a hold by Bussey. Dislikes ramping up in that second half. You could feel the frustration from the Winnipeg Jets here. Scheifele's denied on a rush. The Jets press with 2.5 minutes left. The goalie pull happens with 1:35 seconds left. And with 51.1 seconds left, the Jets draw a power play that runs out the clock. So Carolina wins in Winnipeg 4-3. Shots on net, 12-11 Carolina in the first, 9-4 Carolina in the second, 12-7 Winnipeg in the third. Winnipeg did wake up late in the third period, but it was just too late. Final shots, 28-27 Carolina. Power plays, Carolina 1 for 3, Winnipeg 1 for 2. The hits, 29-14 for Winnipeg. Bussey saves 24 out of 27. Comrie saved 24 out of 28. All right, and the last game of the night before we'll take a look at the standings is Boston and the LA Kings. Swayman versus Kemper, and I had the feeling this was going to be a very low-chance game because both Boston and LA tend to do well in games like that. So, good early Bruins forechecking. Steves has a wraparound that save. The shots are 3-0 for the Bruins, 4 minutes into the period. Bruins draw a power play. That's killed off. The Kings then get a power play. There's a shorthanded wrister by Zacha. That gets held. That was on a rush. Then we get 1 minute and 11 seconds of 5-on-3 for the LA Kings. Well, the Bruins do kill that off, and they allowed 2 shots. They were good shots, but Swayman was there for them when needed. Shots are 6-5 Boston with 6.5 minutes left. We get more pressure by Boston with 6 minutes left. More Bruins pressure with 2.5 minutes left. They controlled large swaths of that period, although the shots would not tell you that. Anderson then has a rush chance that's held by Swayman. It is scoreless after the first. Second period, early press by the Kings. Dumoulin has a shot that's kicked aside. The Bruins get pinned down a little bit after an icing call. Bruins have a press at 5 minutes. The Kings then draw a power play. During that power play, there's a post for Fiala. The rebound's cleared. Power play's killed off. And outside of that post, which doesn't count as a shot, there wasn't anything at the net by the LA Kings on that power play. Bruins press at the half, but the shots are 9-2 for LA with 8.5 minutes left. Kastelik has a wrister that's held as the Bruins get some pressure. Byfield has a net drive chance that's blocked. Hampus Lindholm has a chance that's held. And it was really a game of momentum swings in this one. Kings in control for a while. The Bruins in control for a while. It's just a very back and forth, entertaining game for a low-scoring game, absolutely. Bruins press with 4 minutes left. The Kings get some pressure to close it out. Scoreless after 2. I know where this one's headed. Third period. Danault can't bury one in close. Kuzmenko then gets robbed as there's some pressure by the Kings. The shots are 2-1 in favor of LA, 3.5 minutes in. We get a power play for the Kings. That leads to a shorthanded chance for Zadorov. That gets blockered aside. So Zadorov, thinking he's an offensively minded player. I mean, it could happen, I guess. Geeky's going to be a 50-goal scorer this year, so why not? So the power play's killed off. The Kings press after it's done. The teams trade rushes and turnovers. Then there's more good forechecking by Boston, which leads to the goal that opens the scoring. Geeky with a one-timer from the high slot at 8 minutes and 1 second. Steves and Zadorov with the assists. Nice to see Steves on the score sheet because he's working really hard. It's nice to see him being rewarded. Kings press for response. LA goes back to the power play. That was killed off. Swayman with a nice hold after. And then the Bruins draw themselves a power play, which leads to a shorthanded goal for the Kings. There were some shorthanded goals tonight. Armia buries a rebound via a shorthanded 2-on-1 rush. Yoel Armia already has 3 shorthanded goals this season. That's at 13:03. Moore and Dumoulin with the assists. The Kings then finish the kill, and I stopped taking notes because I was like, I know where this game's going. I've watched 7:30 starts. It's a 1-1 tie. There's 7 minutes left. This is going to overtime. Ta-da! It went to overtime. I didn't want to run out of room on the board. So the Bruins control early. Huznadinov loses the handle on a fast break opportunity he had. Geeky couldn't bury one in close, but then at 2:27, Geeky with a wrister from the right circle ends the game. It's 2-1. Pastrnak and Zadorov with the assists. Morgan Geeky, your leading goal scorer in the National Hockey League. So Boston wins this one 2-1. The chess magnets on the board for this 2-1 overtime victory because 3 goals or less. Shots on net, 9-8 Boston in the first, 9-7 LA in the second, 15-7 LA in the third, 3-0 Boston in the overtime, including the shot that matters. Final shots, 32-26 for the Kings. Power plays, Boston 0 for 2, LA 0 for 5. The hits, 28-12 for Boston. Swayman, great game, 31 saves on 32 shots. And Kemper, pretty good game for him too, 24 saves on 26 shots, but the Kings continue to struggle at home. I believe they still just have the 1 win at home so far this season. So what did this do to the standings? So with just the 4 games tonight, you wouldn't think much would change. You'd be wrong. Minnesota's now 3rd in the division. 22 games played, so they've played more than some of the teams chasing them, but 11-7-4, 26 points. Minnesota's above that playoff line. It pushes Winnipeg down to the number 2 wildcard spot. They're 12-8 now, 24 points in 20 games. The LA Kings, 10-6-6, 26 points in 22 games. They move up to 3rd place, I should say, in the division. So if the playoffs started today, it'd be the Kings against the Vegas Golden Knights. Moves Seattle down to the number 1 wildcard spot, 10-5-5, 25 points in 20 games. Chicago drops below the playoff line. Record of 10-7-4, 24 points in 21 games. And I'm mildly concerned. The 9-3 loss against Buffalo, it's a tough one. I don't believe anything else changes in the West. No, everything else stays the same. The Atlantic, this is ridiculous. Boston goes from not being in the playoffs to being 1st in the division. This is how close things are. But they have played 23 games. Keep an eye on the fact that other teams have played less games. So I wouldn't wager on Boston being 1st in the division at the end of the year just yet. 13-10, 26 points in 23 games because I don't gamble. So there you go. Pushes Detroit down to 2nd in the division, 12-8-1, 25 points in 21 games. Tampa 3rd, 11-7-2, 24 points in 20 games. And Pittsburgh stays as that number 1 wild card, 10-6-4, 24 points in 20 games. The number 2 wild card is Ottawa, who have the exact same record as Pittsburgh. They bump out Washington because Ottawa's played 1 less game. I actually was doing up the standings. I had Washington, that number 2 wild card, then the standings updated on the NHL app, and I went, right, Ottawa's got a game in hand, so they get that spot. Washington 11-8-2. They're tied in terms of record with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they both played 1 more game than have the Ottawa Senators. And then Buffalo, 8-9-4, 20 points in 21 games. They're now 1 point behind the Toronto Maple Leafs. So quarter of the way into the season, and what has Toronto accomplished? They're 1 point clear of Buffalo, and yet still only 3 points out of the playoffs. And that means Buffalo is still only 4 points out of the playoffs. So I'd love to see Buffalo go on a run. Maybe the wins over Edmonton and then tonight Chicago. Maybe that's a sign things are getting better. But I've said it before, so we'll see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.